Hello folks, Russ Scala here. We've got a new program today we want to talk about, and it's called our Antidepressant Withdrawal Program, or our Antidepressant Discontinuation Program. This is a really fascinating time, folks, because psychiatry is changing in real time. No more are they just going to treat the head, but we've got to treat the whole physiology in order to impact the brain chemistry. Now, remember in my past videos, I told you when I was a paramedic attached to the SWAT team, we've had a lot of suicides among emergency service personnel that had elevated cortisol levels, and they suppressed their feel-good chemicals from being on the job for a long time. So now that we know that psychiatry is changing, this program evolved probably over 7 years. And let me tell you a little story. I worked for an addiction center that was owned by Bob Nye. That was a friend of mine. He wanted me to develop an aftercare program for addicts. Because we know if you're an opiate addict or an alcoholic, by the time you go through your rehab, your detox and your rehab, you're really deficient in vitamins, minerals, amino acids, your microbiome is out of balance, and your feel-good chemicals are in the toilet. So, of course, Bob wanted me to develop a revenue stream, because, it's always about the money. And so I, forget saving people, let's build a revenue stream. So I built a program that when an addict comes off the 3-month or the 4-month detox, and they're no longer on their medication, we want to prevent them from going back. And what we found out that the intestinal tract is the second brain. We know that vitamins, minerals, amino acids, hormonal levels like estrogen and progesterone all impact the brain chemistry. So what I did was I developed a program with our research lab and our pharmacy that did advanced testing to rehab these people's bodies and help them keep muscle mass. Muscle mass is a reservoir for fuel and amino acids. And most of these addicts lose muscle mass because they're addicted to sugar, caffeine, and they're smoking cigarettes. Again, not judging them, but they never really get a good diet because those high carbohydrate diet increases their feel-good chemicals in their brain and relaxes them. So we understand a bad diet is actually the addict medicating themselves. So we've got to look at diet, nutrition, and hormonal levels. Well, what we found out along the way that led us into this antidepressant withdrawal program is when we got people off the opiates and we got people off the heroin and the Suboxone and the alcohol, we used the Sinclair program for alcohol. We don't use complete abstinence. Our alcohol program, people were allowed 1 drink a day, and then we worked on their brain chemistry, which seemed to have a higher success rate than AA. But what we found out with different clients is people taking other medication like antidepressants. The SSRIs, were harder to get people off of, and because they impact so many metabolic pathways. The SSRIs, the SNRIs, these medications that were given to people that were addicts, they had a comorbidity, they needed to relax. So these SSRIs would compromise them on a cellular level, cause deficiencies in the gut, and like a 75 milligram SSRI, we may have to decrease 1 milligram a month. That's a very slow process. It could take 2 years, where we know that opiate and alcoholics can detox pretty quickly, especially if they're in jail or if they're in an overnight facility. We could detox them pretty quick. But the SSRIs, the antidepressant withdrawal, is real, and it's really tough to get over. So with the paradigm shift happening in psychiatry, we have 28,000 psychiatrists in the United States that script 47 million people on antidepressants. A lot of these people, you could see on social media, are asking to get off these antidepressants. They don't like how they feel. They want to use a more natural approach. So this program that we developed here, we're sharing with psychiatrists, that many psychiatrists actually want to be deprescribers. They want to open up their doors for people that come into their office and help them get off the antidepressants, which I think is really a big deal. So the psychiatric community is changing in real time. We're empowering psychiatrists and people with the knowledge and the studies where they could build a therapeutic relationship. And we also have the testing at our facility, where I'm also working with people to help them slowly wean off the SSRIs once they get off their either opiate or alcohol addiction. But another thing that's happening, folks, is this. People want to get off of like Seroquel and hypnotics. People have tried to get off their antidepressants on their own, and they're really finding out they can't do it. And their pediatrician, or many times a general practitioner who prescribed the medication, doesn't know how to get them off. I mean, these drugs were not designed to stay on for a long time. Now, we could follow the work of Dr. Peter Breggin, who wrote the book Toxic Psychology, and you could Google Dr. Peter Breggin, and you could Google Dr. Kelly Brogan. Both these psychiatrists are using advanced natural treatment protocols to help people wean off the antidepressants. Dr. Breggins' work, he has a book, an antidepressant withdrawal book. And what I did at my facility is we looked at the next level. We looked at the microbiome, the mitochondria, and the brain chemistry. Let me show you a chart to kind of paint that picture for you. But Dr. Kelly Brogan and Dr. Peter Breggin are on the tip of the spear. Dr. Peter Breggin testified in, I think, over 150 court cases that were sealed on the damages that's caused by antidepressants. He wrote the book, Toxic Psychiatry. So empowering yourself with this knowledge is extremely important, folks. And like I said, I want to bring you information where you could educate you and your family members. If you're taking an SSRI and you want to get off it, you need to partner with a good team, get a good doctor on board with you, find a psychiatrist that is willing to deprescribe with you and work with you. It may take a little time to make a few phone calls, may take a day or two, but get in front of these doctors, get a second opinion, and find out somebody that'll work with you. Or I found a couple of doctors here in my hometown that'll work with people. So let me go through another chart with you, and I'll kind of build an overview for you, okay?
The U.S. has 28,000 psychiatrists scripting 37 million patients with antidepressants. Today, patients that are trying to stop taking antidepressants because of the side effects can't do so safely. Following the work of Dr. Kelly Brogan and Dr. Peter Breggin, experts in the area of antidepressants withdrawal, shows that it takes longer to withdraw off of antidepressants than opiates, heroin, or alcohol. Scala Precision Health is helping educate physicians, as well as patients, on building a new therapeutic relationship through the process. The future of psychiatry will be in deprescribing, managing withdrawal, and pivoting to test nutritional and hormonal deficiencies, along with treatment of the microbiome. Primary care doctors should not be contributing to the problem with more prescriptions, knowing that the field is outside of their boundaries of competence and expertise. Part of the withdrawal process is testing the microbiome, which is the second brain. The intricacies of the microbiome are unfathomable. The microbiome is dynamic and ever-changing in its response to our environment. The air we breathe, the people we touch, the drugs we take, the dirt and germs we encounter, the food we consume, even the thoughts we have will all affect the microbiome, which directly affects our brain and how we feel hour to hour. All drug withdrawal starts with the microbiome.
Folks, you know my history as being a paramedic attached to the SWAT team and my work with war veterans. There's a lot of things in that job, police, fire, and war veterans, that you can't unsee. And the stress that you're under, I don't think anybody really can understand. But you remember my video I did on good cop, bad cop, is whether you're a war veteran, a police officer, can spending years on the job responding to emergencies, being in the war zone, can that change our brain chemistry over time? And a lot of the research with Dr. Sapolsky out of Stanford that wrote the book Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, or he wrote the book Behave, we kind of know that our brain chemistry can be compromised. And again, you could Google the Prozac pill. There's a Time magazine article on the front page. It says the Army's new secret weapon, but there's a Prozac pill on the front page of the Time magazine article, I think, that came out 10 years ago. And we could do better for our troops. I've had good friends of mine commit suicide, in the early 80s. I was talking to them on the phone or face-to-face a day before, and the next day they pulled the trigger. So those things, along with me responding to emergency calls, those things always stay with me. Like, how did I miss that? I knew this guy, I love this guy, he was my best friend. Where did I go wrong? And obviously, I got placed on the critical incident stress debriefing team, where any kind of trauma that a police, a fireman, or anybody saw that was really heavy, a baby getting run over by a car, a drowning, We were able to vent our feelings and talk to psychiatrists or psychologists that was there. And I was placed on that team it was like 89. The point of the matter is you can't keep seeing these things. And as my chart here, your amygdala is your alarm center in the brain, and that's your fight or flight response, okay? When you see trauma, when you're responding to an emergency call, when you're in a war zone, this amygdala lights up like a Christmas tree. Your heart rate increases, your breathing increases, your blood gets thicker in case you're shot. It's crazy, the physiological responses when you're under stress, and it's truly amazing. So when you're constantly in the war zone or constantly responding to emergency calls, these are the outliers, these are the extremes. And what we glean from these extreme people, we could look at somebody that's in an executive job, that's working 80 hours a week. We could look at a mom that just had a baby that's completely in the tank, because the same thing happens. When the amygdala is under stress, the prefrontal cortex shuts down. So the prefrontal cortex is our decision-making center. When we're constantly under stress, we lower serotonin, cortisol, dopamine, and adrenaline. These are our neurotransmitters that make us feel good. So presently, all I have right now for these people are antidepressants, when we need to look at multiple metabolic markers that impact the brain chemistry. So my whole life I've been following this, educating people. You could look at the evolution of psychiatry. Back in 1949, Antonio Menez got the Nobel Prize for developing the ice pick lobotomy, where they stuck an ice pick underneath your eye and they hammered it up into your prefrontal cortex and moved it back and forth to help with severely depressive patients. 50,000 people had that procedure done, and it won the Nobel Prize. Crazy, right? But again, that evolved into electroshock therapy, and then it evolved into DMS-5, the diagnostic standards, where they have all the medical illnesses inside a book, and people are prescribed medication. It explains bipolar, schizophrenia, and all the mental illnesses in one book. So this is kind of the evolution. Now, the next evolution I'm talking about is looking at other metabolic markers that impact the brain chemistry, okay? Okay, folks, this is the advanced program that we developed for psychiatrists and for patients to arm themselves with the new knowledge so they could take care of themselves. Thousands and thousands of people are on social media right now, or they're building forums to explain how to get off antidepressants and what their experiences are. So this is like subject matter experts that are talking about their recovery and getting off of antidepressants in real time, which you could follow them. And that's like having a research group right at your fingertips. So what I gleaned over 40 years of medicine, dealing with stress myself, dealing with depression myself, is you've got to look at the gut-brain connection. And we bring advanced testing. We bring dosing protocols that aren't even offered in traditional medicine. Here's an example. Those neurotransmitters I was telling you about, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, estrogen, testosterone, all these things can be delivered to you, as part of your treatment protocol. We look at the gut-brain connection. We know that aerobic exercise stimulates feel-good chemicals, so any kind of exercise would be great. There's a place in New York called the Odyssey House that takes heroin addicts and has them train for the New York City Marathon. That's pretty awesome. So we know exercise elevates our feel-good chemicals. It's not for everybody. But we know that medication, obesity, cortisol, all the stress, and bad food impacts the intestinal tract. So the intestinal tract is the second brain, and we know it's connected. Then we want to, as part of the testing that I offer, is looking at the microbiome and balancing out the gut first. Folks, I went to the first nutritional testing lab, the gut testing lab, called the Great Smokies Diagnostic Lab, that was doing stool sampling in 1996. Our microbiome, or our gut, is going to be ground zero for any type of addiction, any type of recovery, okay? This is where we got to start. And you could Google addictions and testosterone, addictions and progesterone. We know that the hormones, progesterone, testosterone, thyroid, your adrenal hormones all impact our brain chemistry. So getting them tested coming in the door is critical for you to not only get off the medication, not only to to quell the addiction that you've had, but also to rebalance your body chemistry for years of being deficient. And that's sort of what we want to do. We want to arm you with the knowledge. So think about this, folks. If you like this video, share it with people that are on SSRIs or are looking for other avenues to get off medication. We know that there's a paradigm shift in psychiatry. Like I said earlier, we've got 28,000 psychiatrists scripting 47 million people for antidepressants, and all that's changing. Many psychiatrists want another toolbox to help people get better. And that's an exciting time for you right now. So share this video, folks. See the Russ Scala YouTube channel, and see Scala Precision Health here in Winter Park. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll keep trying to bring you good content, all right? Thank you.
The time is now for you to take control of your health. Everybody and every body has a story. Let us find out yours today.